I'm Dillon.
And I'm Ryan.
And as if we didn't already have enough books that we didn't read from our last book haul, we went to a used bookstore today and picked up some more.
Yeah.
Here is what we got. The first place I stopped by was the poetry section. The first one I got is a book called In Search of Duende by Federico Garcia Lorca. This is a Spanish poet that I've never read. This has the Spanish and English translations. A duende, if you don't know, it's like an elf or something like that, or I don't know if that's the right word, more like a troll. It's like a thing in Spanish folklore that you might see running around at night, but apparently it's also supposed to represent to him irrationality, earthiness, and a heightened awareness of death. So I don't know, it seems like an interesting exploration of some folklore stuff.
I'm going to start with something I found near the end of it. In the music section, I found a couple music books for Soul Asylum, one of my favorite artists, for their albums Grave Dancers Union and Let Your Dim Light Shine. This one's, the musical notation. This one also has guitar tabs in it. That's why it's thicker, actual tab edition. But those
for the full album for both, right?
Yeah. And those were a cool find. It just happened to glance through it, and I saw Soul Asylum, and I was like, whoa, that's cool.
My next one's another poetry collection, The Back Country by Gary Snyder. From what I understand, he's a nature poet. I once had someone read one of my poems that was about running in nature, and they told me, I think you would like Gary Snyder's poetry. And I think I've read maybe one poem once, but never a collection, so I'm interested to read this one. It says it talks about Western nature, like nature in the U.S., but then also a trip to Japan where he studied some Zen. So I'm interested to read this Gary Snyder.
One little one I got here is a little pocket field guide, Pacific Intertidal Life. And my girlfriend has a pretty good collection of different field guides, but they're mostly plants and trees, trees being plants. But she has talked about in being interested in tide pools and stuff like that. So I was like, oh, I saw this little tiny pocket thing, and I was like, I'll go grab that.
Is an ocean guide still a field guide? Should be called a...
Well, I mean...
something else, I don't know.
Yeah, you're right. It's just a guide. But is a field guide, is it not a field guide to birds because they're in the air?
Yeah. It should be called
some birds nest in a field, but...
Maybe it's not actually about fields.
I think you're out in the field.
Yeah, the opposite of an office guide.
Yeah, exactly.
My next one is not a field guide, but it's a collection of poetry that I think has to do with nature again. It's called Toucan Nest, Poems of Costa Rica by Peggy Shoemaker. At first I thought it would be like a collection of Costa Rican poets, but I think it's actually, they're all poems by this poet from the U.S., Peggy Shoemaker, but all about trips to Costa Rica and stuff there. So that'll be fun. Poetic field guide.
The next one I picked up here was... Billy Budd and Other Tales by Herman Melville. And the reason I picked this up was for Billy Budd because my girlfriend and I are watching through The Sopranos right now, a show that I have seen before and really liked. But Anthony Jr. in one section has to do a school report on Billy Budd.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's like a reference to a thing, which I think I had another one of those. Oh yeah, last book haul I got
The Time.
Yeah, A Wrinkle in Time as a reference from Ted Lasso.
Ted Lasso. Yeah.
So I've been on a roll with references from from TV shows
to better understand those episodes. Right?
Yeah.
All right, my next one went along with, after I found the Costa Rican poetry, I found this book called The Costa Rica Reader, History, Culture, Politics. So a collection from a bunch of different writers on a bunch of different topics throughout Costa Rican history. I'll probably pick and choose from this instead of going front to back. We'll see, unless I have a lot of time. Maybe if we go on a Costa Rican vacation and I want to spend some time learning about the history, culture of that country.
Okay, my next one, The Brain, The Story of You by David Eagleman. This one, I was like just perusing through the section on neuroscience. There's like a physics section, their whole science section. And I saw David Eagleman, I was like, that sounds familiar. Why does that sound familiar? I read another one of his books, Incognito, The Secret Lives of the Brain. And I own that book. That's one that I would definitely recommend to people. And so I was like, oh, I'll read his other book. This one is newer than that one. And so another book on the brain. I said right there, best-selling author of Incognito.
And it says as seen on PBS, so maybe it's some kind of documentary style.
I guess so.
David Eagleman. I might look into that myself. My next one I got is a sort of memoir called The Taliban Shuffle. Strange Days in Afghanistan and Pakistan by Kim Barker. This one is also turned into a movie called Whiskey Tango Foxtrot with Tina Fey in it.
That sounds familiar, but
I remember seeing the trailers for it.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the movie or read the book, but as we do, we're interested in finding adaptations. So I thought this sounded interesting even before I saw the sticker that said now it's a movie. Memoir of like the early 2000s going to the Middle East, 2002, a journalist.
My next one here is poetry. I spent a good amount of time in the poetry section trying to find certain things that I'm looking for. This one's called Walking to Sleep by Richard Wilbur. And this is one, Richard Wilbur, former poet laureate, U.S. poet laureate. I decided a couple of years back that I was going to try to read one selection, one book, whatever, from each former U.S. poet laureate.
There must be a lot.
Yeah, I mean, at one point it was just called like Consultants in Poetry, but I'm counting those ones.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it's 100 years worth of, and some of them serve for more than one session or whatever, more than 1 year. But this is one of them for that collection, Richard Wilbur.
My next one, from the fiction section, this one stood out to me. It's called The Blue Ribbon Jalapeno Society Jubilee. I just couldn't pass my eyes over that title. I had to see what that was about. By Carolyn Brown. It takes place in Texas at a place called Miss Cloudy's Cafe. And they're competing for a Jubilee Blue Ribbon, like between local businesses, I guess. And so it's about like some, I don't know if it's small town, but southern town drama and gossip and then maybe some romance in Cadillac, Texas, where the jalapenos are hot and the gossip is even hotter.
My next one is another former U.S. poet laureate, Randall Jarrell, The Lost World. So this is another one for that list. I like to try to find these ones that are, and what would you call it, original collection as opposed to like a compilation selected over multiple published books of poetry.
Not like greatest hits,
Exactly, because I like to try to read it as it originally was and not just like the best ones that there were. And
then
some hidden gems,
Oh yeah, you could find those, and it's the way the writer wanted them.
Exactly, that's a big part of it too.
Not the publishers. The next ones I got, I went over to the drama section. I wanted to read some non-Shakespeare plays this year. That's on my bingo board. And the first one I found is called Rabbit Hole by David Lindsay Abair. Might be pronouncing that wrong. Winner of the Pulitzer Prize for Drama and now a major motion picture with Nicole Kidman, Aaron Eckhart, and Diane Wiest. It just seemed interesting. Rabbit hole, something about, if you know the expression going down the rabbit hole of like getting obsessed with something. Seems like an interesting drama.
To round mine out, I'm still in poetry, still in U.S. Poets Laureate. W.S. Merwin, The Shadow of Sirius. This is a little bit of a newer one, 2008, newer than the other ones that I had there. Those are older. But this will be another one. This will be one of the newer ones. I guess I read new Robert Hass, but I haven't read very much new poetry, newer poetry,
yeah.
like because I started at the beginning
For the
in
laureates.
in like in 1918 or
Oh,
whatever,
yeah.
which it's a different stylistically, obviously,
sure.
as you move up through.
He's been around for a while, though. He was
Yeah.
writing in, I think, the 60s.
Hmm.
Yeah, I read a good amount of his, and he was actually one of the translators I noticed on my Lorca collection from Spanish to English.
Oh, really?
He was credited there.
Yeah, and I did that with a couple ones who I liked. With some of the poets laureate, I would get something that was like an earlier work, and if I kind of liked it, I would find like one of their later ones to see if it like changed.
That's interesting. To jump, to like
yeah.
time travel instead of going in order.
Yeah. I was just like, oh, let me see a newer one and just see what
Yeah.
that's like, as opposed to like taking the time to read through all of them,
Yeah. I have one more play called Proof by David Auburn. And actually, this one is now a major motion picture also. I remember seeing a trailer for this one, actually. Yeah, I saw this play there. I started reading about it. Sounded interesting. It's about math. There's a 25-year-old woman who's taking care of her father and then finds a bunch of his notebooks. It says valuable work, over 103 notebooks that he leaves behind. And I think he was the mathematician, so it's like about math, but then, life drama. And after I read that description and I saw the now a major motion picture on the front, it came back to me. I remember seeing a trailer and thinking, oh, that's interesting, like a very math heavy drama. So excited to read Proof. If you've read any of these books before, please tell us which ones we should read first.
Yeah,
because
we need some help prioritizing.
Exactly. Yeah, we still have some from before. We have a lot on our to-be
We have some,
list.
like we keep saying, from a bookstore we went to in 2021.
Yeah. Yeah, when we were in Oregon, we found this big bookstore. So, if we need to put one on the top of the list to read now, please let us know in the comments below. And if you've read all of these and you're looking for something else to read, go to the description box where you can find our books. We have links to our poetry and my novel that you can order. You can follow us on Instagram.
And stay tuned. Look at all the, we got other stuff coming up. We'll do more book hauls in the future. We also do a show called Adaptation Station, where we read books and watch their movie adaptations. We do them in a different order to tell you, which way is better.
Yeah.
You should read the book first to watch the movie first.
That's why I picked out some of those adaptations this time. And subscribe to the channel, click the bell, and tell your friends to tune in too. You can click another video now. Thank you. Bye.